So thank you for coming today. My name is Sarah Fletcher. I'm the Westford Business Association president, and we're very pleased to present our 4th annual town managers meeting. If you would all just please silence your phones, that would be terrific. We are, I work at Westford Community Access Television, and we are recording this program today. So you could photobomb the camera later. So I want to really thank Pamela Huntley and Cheryl Popp for organizing this event and working with Marcy and Juniper to host and pull all the details together. Pamela and Cheryl are on the board of directors. They have also sponsored the event and have really made it possible. So thank you very much. I also want to thank Juniper and Marcy for hosting the event. Thank you for this great room. Next year it's going to be completely different, right? You're renovating as of tomorrow. This is the last program in this space. So, and also to our media partner, the Lowell Sun, and Tom for moderating. Thank you very much. And today, so we have with us, and pardon me for if I don't remember, we have Paul and Steve were not able to come today. They had got called away. So they did send some very qualified people to fill in for them. But we have Keith Bergman from Littleton. Clap, clap, clap. Our own Jody Ross from Westford Town, the Westford Town manager. And Selby.
Land Use and Economic Development Director.
Land Use and Economic Development Director at Acton. And we have Mike McCall, Assistant Town Manager at Chelmsford. So thank you both for filling in. We're going to give these guys a lot of room for their presentation because they just found out about it. So we will give them a lot of grace. And you're standing in the middle of the light. Maybe we can move you over just a smidge. And now I'm going to turn the program over to Tom Zupa of the Lowell Sun.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you again, Sarah, for the invitation to come back this year. I think this is the 4th year I've been here. Always a great event. Always great to hear some of the things that are happening in our communities. And with that, we're going to turn it over to the presenters themselves. Who's first?
Yeah. Jody wants. Hello. Okay. Jody wants me to go first.
Keith Bergman from Acton. Littleton, rather. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks very much. I'm Keith Bergman, Town Administrator in Littleton. Can you all see there? I wonder if I should just stand. How about this? If I stand right in front of Tom? But I'm pleased to be back here. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I was at this. Actually, I spent a lot of time in this building because Juniper is a member of the Crosstown Connect Transportation Management Association and is a very active member, and we're very appreciative of all of their support. But let me just start by saying that I guess I'll tell you, I've been in Littleton for 11 years. I've been a town manager somewhere since 1981, so I've stopped counting how many years that is, but it's been a long time. And Littleton has been just a great experience. I arrived in 2007. I was offered the job, and I said yes, and I picked it because the week before IBM had picked Littleton, and I thought, wouldn't that be great to come and be a part of that exciting development. So in Littleton, we try to take advantage of all the programs that state government has to offer. We actively pursue a partnership with state government. We have 4 active economic development incentive program sites with tax increment financing agreements in Littleton, including IBM, the Potpourri Group, which has almost 400 employees, FIBA Technologies, and most recently Patriot Beverages at the former site of Very Fine in Littleton, and we were very pleased when after that manufacturing facility closed after 80 years. A year or two later, it opened, and we're very, very happy to see activity there again. We've got the Point development that Sam Park has done at Exit 31 off of 495. We got a MassWorks grant of $1.8 million to help us with some transportation improvements there. And we are a part of a community compact with our neighboring towns, including Westford, we were the first regional community compact for the Crosstown Connect initiative. In fact, here's our group photo when we signed with the Lieutenant Governor back in 2015. There are, Littleton is part of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which is the regional planning agency for the 101 cities and towns in Metro Boston. We are, if we were any further, we are right on the edge of the MAPC region, but I'm currently in my second year serving as president of MAPC. My Board of Selectmen has been very supportive of my being involved in the organization because so much of what Littleton does, we have a small operation, so many of the things that we do are in coordination and partnership with our neighboring communities. We do a lot of things on a regional basis, so we get a lot of benefit from our participation in MAPC. We're also part of the 495 Metro West Partnership, along with Westford and Acton and others. It's a great organization that works jointly between business and the cities and towns. Just a few statistics about Littleton. Our town budget is $47.5 million, including the schools, AAA bond rating. Our population has increased by 3% since 2010. Our housing stock has increased by 12% since 2010, so I think those statistics side by side are interesting, along with school enrollment, which has only gone up by just under 4%. Our subsidized housing inventory stands at 12.9%, as you're probably aware, under Chapter 40B. The goal is to be 10% affordable, and if you don't achieve 10%, you have the ability to you might have an unfriendly 40B development proposal. I saw one of the questions beforehand, so I thought I'd put the information out there. Littleton has a split tax rate for fiscal 2018. Its residential rate is $18.14 per thousand, commercial rate $28.03. That follows historically a trend for splitting the tax rate. I wanted to put up the Board of Selectmen's goals. This is an important part of what we do each year is to set goals. This year, implementing the master plan was a top goal. It is we adopted a master plan after 2 years of study. We are focusing on economic development, infrastructure, including a sewer, for which we're planning, transportation improvements, roadway improvements. We are completing the expansion of our fire station. Our police department has achieved full accreditation, and we're doing a study of office space needs for our town government. For the sewer, we're calling it a smart sewer. One of the things that's it would serve the Littleton Common area, which is where IBM is and where the Sam Park, the Point is, but also the traditional village center. A smart sewer has an energy efficient design, and one of the things that's smart about it is it focuses the growth and development in a particular area of town. We're not proposing to sewer town-wide. We're proposing to sewer in the downtown business district. It would be built on an as-needed basis instead of building the whole thing up front and paying for the spreading and having those costs be borne by the first who connect. We're looking to phase it in over time, and we're in the process of going through that now. The benefits include the fact for Littleton that we take our water out of one aquifer and dump it in another, and this will give us the ability to recharge the aquifer from which we take the water. We are looking at going after some state funding, including a MassWorks grant for a smart sewer this year. Transportation is another initiative that our Crosstown Connect communities and the Montechusett Regional Transit Association, we are looking at launching, hopefully in the next few months, a commuter rail shuttle that links Littleton Station with IBM and Juniper. So we're very excited about that. It would be meeting the needs in the morning, commuter rail trains coming in from both outbound and inbound, and also in the afternoon. And our hope is that once we have this pilot program in place, that we'll be expanding it in the future. Another thing we are working with the MBTA on is the expansion of commuter rail parking at Littleton Station. We've got not only plans that the MBTA itself is developing, and they've committed to spend $1.5 million of their own money, but also some of the adjacent properties are looking, for private developments, are looking at making additional parking available. So we're hopeful to be able to have something come of that. As I mentioned, we adopted a master plan in 2017. And I just wanted to focus on another area, and that is housing production. That I was a part of the governor's launch of his Housing Choice Initiative, which recognizes housing production that communities have made and is establishing a reward structure with grant funding and prioritization for state grants like MassWorks. To achieve a goal of the governors of adding 135,000 housing units by 2030. Our master plan had some specific housing initiatives, which I'm proud to say all of which we've implemented. Town meeting is pursuing allowing greater density where it makes sense to do so, principally Littleton Common. Our accessory apartments bylaw was passed this year, allowing it as a use by right. In order to give housing options for Littleton folks to be able to stay in town as they age, we have adopted a senior residential development zoning bylaw, and I've got 3 active proposals in front of the planning board tonight. We're establishing a municipal housing, affordable housing trust fund to help pay for affordable housing development that the town sponsors. And we've adopted an inclusionary housing bylaw, which requires that 10% of housing be affordable and provides for a density bonus if you give us some more affordable units. This is just part of our partnership with state government, except we had to come over to Westford to do it because the governor was here.
There, but I wasn't in the.
But I was right behind Jody. That I told my board stick with me, and we'll get a photo with the governor. So thanks very much for having me this morning.
Yeah, I'm waiting. Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of Paul Cohen, I want to thank you for having us here today, especially Juniper for hosting, the Westford Business Association for inviting us, and Tom Zupa for being the moderator. I'm happy to be working with Paul Cohen. He's a great mentor and a friend. I was a selectman with him for 9 years, as well as a member of the FinCom. By trade, I'm an attorney. I did municipal law, and I worked with several municipal administrations. And at one point in time, I decided I wanted to make the transition, and Paul was kind enough to bring me along, and I've been working with him for about the last year and a half. We are blessed in Chelmsford with great public participation, and we have a lot of people here this morning, especially from our Economic Development Commission. We have our chairman, Donald Van Dyne. I saw Eric Salerno, Laura Smith, Peter Dolcinos, and we have our new business development director, Lisa Maroney, here as well. And a classmate of mine, Kirk Marshall, who's actively involved in town, is sitting in the back row. Chelmsford by the numbers. We've all seen the numbers for the other towns. I'm sure you'll see Westford and Acton as well. We have a population of almost 33,000 people. We have a workforce of over 18,000, an unemployment rate of 2.4%, and a per capita income of approximately $51,000. We have a single tax rate in Chelmsford. It's $17.96. The average assessed single-family home is just under $400,000. We have 5,000 students in our school system. We have 1 high school, 2 middle schools, and 4 elementary schools. The one thing that I love about Chelmsford, and the reason my family moved here 50 years ago, is because of the location. Chelmsford is uniquely positioned and easily accessible. We're at the intersection of 2 major highways. We have 6 off-ramps in the town. We have convenient economic centers. We're in the heart of the Route 3 corridor, and we're 10 miles from the New Hampshire border and 10 miles from 128. If you look at the map of Chelmsford, you can see 485, Route 3, Route 38, 4, 110, 129, and 27. All roads lead to Chelmsford. These red circles indicate the off-ramps and on-ramps to these major roadways. The blue triangles indicate where our economic centers are. When my family first came here, they wanted to move out from the suburbs, from the urban areas to the suburbs, and Chelmsford was growing at a phenomenal rate. The population tripled in the early 60s, which has presented a problem as we go along, or not a problem, a challenge. And where we are now is we are still interested in attracting high-value businesses to Chelmsford. Back in the 80s, we had a different model. We didn't have the internet. People all drove to work, and all along 129, which is one of our primary economic development centers, we built a different model where we had these large businesses, everybody had a cubicle. But as times change, Chelmsford being founded in 1655, we're 363 years young, in my opinion, because we're learning to reset and adapt. And so through the work of the Economic Development Commission, as well as our Community Development Director, Evan Belansky, we came up with our 129 overlay, which allows us to implement the live, work, play model that many of the millennials are looking for. We have a diverse existing base. We have a lot of small mom and pop shops, but we have a lot of nationally recognized brands. We have high tech, we have manufacturing, we have a lot of retail and amenities. I listed some of the amenities in the middle road, and I included Lowell General. They have a campus here. These are all amenities and services that your employees would like to have, and which makes Chelmsford very attractive. I mentioned the Route 129 overlay. It's primarily focused on that area right along Route 129 and the interchange at Route 3. It offers multiple advantages, including the single tax rate that I mentioned. We can offer expedited permitting, tax incentives, and especially the zoning changes, which will allow multifamily development as well as restaurants. And we like to focus on the R's. I'll probably miss one, Donald will tell me, but recreation, restaurants, retail, and residence. The overlay was just approved by the Attorney General's office last year. So since Paul was here last year, I wanted to go over a few of the highlights that we've had. We're in the process of doing a marketing and branding through the town meeting approval of $50,000. That's in conjunction with the Economic Development Commission and Snyder Associates, putting together a brand and a logo for the community. We've hired our new business development director. Town meeting has approved $15,000 for wayfinding design elements. Getting a little dry mouth here. We've also expended $450,000 of community preservation money for one of our largest parks in town. We've added full-day kindergarten and 22 modular classrooms, and we're resubmitting our statement of interest for a new high school. Again, these are all things that have businesses that want to come to our area, want to see this type of progression and this investment in our community. We've also received numerous grants and aid from the state. We received $370,000 for infrastructure on a MassWorks grant to improve the center where we're having a new luxury apartment complex being built. $328,000 on a Complete Streets grant for infrastructure improvements for sidewalks. $90,000, which is important. This will go towards a market analyst for 129, which will, in conjunction with our business development director and our marketing branding, is really going to help us target the companies that we want to bring to 129. We've also had an additional $200,000 earmarked by the governor for phase 2 and 3 of the wayfinding design elements in the center. I'd also like to point out that we recently reached a deal with the state to purchase the Forum, which is an ice skating rink located at the end of 129, which will also be the home of the New England Bobcats, which is a brand new indoor arena football team, and they will be hosting several games this summer, and we wish them a lot of success. On the housing front, we've added hundreds of units this past year. I won't read them all off, but the important thing to note is they all come along our economic corridors. Littleton Road, as you know, is 110 as part of Chelmsford Woods. Mill Road is right at the intersection of 129 and Route 3. Turnpike Road, that is in the overlay district, and that's important because that's the first multifamily apartment building that's going to go in this overlay district, which it reinforces the live, play, and work model that we've talked about. Again, we have another one on Hunt Road at the intersection of Route 110, and then down the bottom, Brick Kiln Road, which is right behind the Forum. So we're putting all the pieces in place, all the pillars for the live, play, and work model. Some of the successes that we've had, this has been highlighted in the Lowell Sun. This time last year, Paul had mentioned that we had lost 2 of our largest employers, Mercury Computer Systems and Kronos. However, we have turned that around again through the work of the team, including Evan Belansky, the Economic Development Commission. DCU has chose to put a regional headquarters. They're going to take over the old Kronos headquarters, and they're going to bring hundreds of jobs. We've also been able to work with some of the businesses and the stakeholders down there to re-tenant a lot of the properties. So there's a lot of activity going on Route 129. At this point, we're experiencing an awful lot of momentum. Right now, we've been able to cut the vacancies in half in the last year. As I indicated before, we have marketing and branding underway. We have the brand new business development director. We've just talked about the first proposal for restaurant and retail to come along in the overlay district. So again, another pillar. We have the housing in the overlay district. Now we're looking at retail and restaurant. And this is important because I believe, and some of the other members of the team believe, that people have been waiting to see what happens. Once that first retail establishment goes in and that restaurant goes in, I anticipate others will follow. And we've been working very closely with the stakeholders down there to show them what the potential is. Again, we put an awful lot of rental and affordable housing stock into the community. We've been interacting with the stakeholders that I indicated, and we're also partnering with a lot of local and regional programs, including the Middlesex 3 Coalition, and Mass Office of Business Development, Mass Dev, and Mass Econ. So right now, Live, Work, and Play is underway in Chelmsford. I believe Chelmsford's positioned for the future with regard to implementing the Live, Work, Play. We have a competent team. When businesses come to town and they want to talk about relocating, the team consists of the town manager's office, that's Paul and myself, the community development director, Evan Belansky, the business development director, Lisa Marone, the Economic Development Commission, and we have engaged public officials on our Board of Selectmen as well as our planning board. I put public participation up here because that's key. We have active master plan committees which are headed up by folks including Jim Lane and Bill Gillette, who, like Kirk Marshall and I, grew up in this town. And it gives us all a unique perspective, having grown up and seen the changes. You know, I don't know about Kirk. I grew up working on the dairy farm on the west side of town and some of the poultry farms that are all gone. But it gives us an appreciation for what Chelmsford was, what it currently is, and what it can be. And I also include town meeting, because without town meeting, some of those prior highlights would not have been approved. And they're going to be the people we go to for the tax incentives. And we have a lot of people that are vested in the community that become elected town meeting reps, and they've helped us quite a bit. We also have the infrastructure in place. We have great public utilities. We're 100% sewered. We have accessibility, as I mentioned. We're part of the Transportation Management Association with Middlesex 3. We're minutes away from 2 different rail stations, one in Lowell and one in North Billerica. We've made an investment in our parks and our open space, and we're part of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail that goes right through the center. We can offer expedited permitting, and our goal is to turn it around in 90 days, as well as tax incentives. And lastly, and most importantly, we have the zoning and the overlay in place. So if there's one thing that you take away from today about Chelmsford, is I want you to know that in Chelmsford, we're open for business. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Before we move on to our next speaker, as many of you may know, hopefully everyone here knows, that Nikki Tsongas, our congressman, is retiring at the end of this term. There is a primary race in the Democratic side. I think at this current moment there are 13 candidates on the Democratic side, but I haven't checked my email this morning, so there might be 25 or 30. I don't know. But two of them are here this morning. I just wanted to recognize them. Bij Das is here. Where's Bij? Over in the corner. And also Terry Ryan, who's also chairman of the Westford School Committee. And I want to thank all you candidates for keeping us busy at the Sun covering the races. It's a really fascinating race. September 5th is the primary, so please pay attention, and there's a lot of interesting candidates out there. So I also want to move on to our next speaker. It's Matthew Selby, who is the Economic Development Director and Land Use Coordinator for the town of Acton. I want to just insert a quick story here. One of my best friends growing up, his father was a builder and built a lot of the houses over in the Newtown Road area of Acton. So I have some very fond memories of being like 9 or 10 and being in the back of a station wagon driving out to the woods in Acton, because there really was nothing out there back then. It's changed a lot over the years. Matthew?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
You can turn it off.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, my name is Selby. It's my last name. It's what I go by. It's what I've gone by for my entire adult life. And I am the Land Use and Economic Development Director for the town of Acton. I'm filling in for Town Manager Steve Ledoux, who just found out about this event yesterday morning, thanks to our robust spam filters. So given the short notice, I didn't have time to prepare a PowerPoint presentation. I literally had between 5 and 7 p.m. last night to prepare anything whatsoever, given the meetings that I had yesterday. But I thought I'd use this opportunity to share with you one of the best things that has happened to Acton from an economic development perspective since the heyday of Digital Equipment Corp. I started working with Acton a little over 2 years ago. I'm the first person to hold my title. My job description is lengthy. It includes managing a newly created department of 20-plus full-time employees, working with various boards and committees, implementing the town's comprehensive plan, and serving as the town's point person for economic development initiatives. It was about 9 months into my time in Acton when I received a phone call from a firm in St. Louis. The line of questioning was a bit vague, but during the phone call I learned that there was a company that was interested in locating in Acton if the town would be willing to provide a tax incentive. This conversation was followed by a phone call from the Mass Life Sciences Center, an economic development agency focusing on, you guessed it, life sciences. And that phone call was followed by one from the Mass Office of Business Development. So I gathered that this potential deal was not just going to be important to Acton, but to the Commonwealth. So we had a meeting with the site selection consultant, senior management from the company, and reps from the MOBD and the Life Sciences Center. We learned a little bit about the company, their product, and their interest in this property, 100 Nagog Park. It's an old digital equipment building from the 1980s that had sat vacant for the last 15 years. I was familiar with the property, and I'd worked with Paul Matthews from the 495 Metro West Partnership to list the building and its 25 acres on the Ready Mass 100 list. This is the list that site selectors go to find what properties are available for development or redevelopment. And in that meeting, we learned that the company was called Insulet Corp., currently based in Billerica, and they manufacture a small wearable insulin pump called the Omnipod. Insulet was at the tail end of a year-long site selection process for a location to construct a U.S. manufacturing facility. Their team had narrowed down the location after the search to 100 Nagog Park in Acton and a site in Dallas, or near Dallas, Texas. So I don't know if any of you have done economic development and competed with the Southwest or the Southern U.S., and it's difficult to make a case to have a company locate in Massachusetts versus a place like Texas. But after learning about the company and their planned $140 million investment in the manufacturing facility and the opportunity to employ 1,000 people in Acton, we invited the Insulet team to a Board of Selectmen meeting. Insulet gave a presentation about their company, their device, and their interest in locating in Acton. And we asked the board to authorize staff to negotiate a tax increment financing deal with Insulet to incentivize the company to come to town. The request, of course, was granted unanimously. That was Monday night. On Friday, I received a call from the site selection consultant. The deal was off. Unreasonable was what the senior vice president of global manufacturing said. And just like that, the potential for a $140 million investment and 1,000 jobs in Acton just evaporated into thin air. Poof. Easy come, easy go? Well, I wasn't going to let this big fish off the hook without a fight. And the first thing I did was try to find another Acton location for Insulet to call home. There must be somewhere in this town of 20 square miles for them to build. So I scoured our maps and I dug deep into the assessor's database and came to this realization. Most of the land in Acton has either already been developed or conserved. There were just 2 sites other than 100 Nagog Park that could accommodate a 300,000 square foot manufacturing facility, and neither owner had any intention of selling. Eventually, I discovered the real reason the deal had fallen through. 100 Nagog Park was owned by a real estate development firm, the type that constructs and owns buildings just like the one we're in right now. And not only had Insulet made a low-ball offer for the property, but they were planning to terminate their lease in Billerica in a building owned by the very same company. About a month later, I was at a 495 Metro West Partnership meeting, and after the meeting, I spoke with Paul Matthews, the executive director, and I asked if he had an in with the owner of 100 Nagog Park. See, my calls to the owner had gone unanswered. But by the time I got back to Acton Town Hall, I had a voicemail from the president of the company. I spoke to Insulet, and they were back at the negotiating table that week, and they had a P&S signed the following week. So now the real work could begin. So for those of you who don't know, tax increment financing, or TIFs, it's a local tax incentive that municipalities can grant to companies, whereby the company continues to pay taxes on the base value of the property, but is given a tax break on the increase that would be realized through their property investments, or property improvements. In this case, Insulet was buying a 180,000 square foot office building and creating a 300,000 square foot combined manufacturing facility and global headquarters. The TIF we agreed to gives Insulet a 62.5% tax break on the improvements over a 20-year period. So town meeting approves tax incentives, which are then approved by the state. Town meeting also approves zoning changes, and in order for Insulet to build their addition, we had to change the zoning. And for any of you who've been to a town meeting, you know that pretty much anything can happen. We prepared as well as we could for town meeting. We sent flyers to everybody within 1,000 feet of the property and told them about the project and ways to learn more. We presented to the Nagog Woods Condo Association, which is one of the first condo developments in Massachusetts, located right near this facility. We reached out to the owners and occupants of Avalon Acton, which abuts the 100 Nagog Park property. And we presented to the Economic Development Committee, the Finance Committee, and we did a segment on Acton TV. We presented the zoning change to the planning board and gave updates to the Board of Selectmen on a regular basis. And town meeting overwhelmingly approved the TIF and the zoning change. 97% of town meeting voters approved the 2 warrant articles. So Insulet started construction in July and held a groundbreaking ceremony with the governor in September. They're on track to complete the manufacturing wing this year and have the first omnipods rolling off the assembly lines by the first quarter of 2019. By 2022, when their lease in Billerica expires, Insulet will employ 1,000 people at Nagog Park. These 1,000 people will spend money in our local restaurants and shops, strengthening the local economy. And some of those 1,000 people will commute through Westford and Littleton, and so the economic benefit will be shared with our neighbors. When 100 Nagog Park was owned by Digital, DEC employed 800 people at this location. But for the last 15 years, the building has sat vacant, while restaurants within the complex have come and gone. There are still vacancies in Nagog Park buildings, true, but Insulet acquiring and utilizing 100 Nagog Park to its fullest potential is sure to have a positive impact on Acton and its neighbors. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to move on to our last presenter, it'll be Westford's Town Manager, Jody Ross.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Ross. I've been the town manager in Westford. I'm in my 10th year, and wonderful town. And I would concur with Chelmsford that all roads lead to Westford. And we offer all the amenities of my compadres over here. But before I start, I just want to congratulate Tom Zupa and the Lowell Sun. I read that they won all sorts of awards recently for their publications, so that's great. I also want to introduce my assistant town manager, Eric Heidemann, and project procurement specialist, Greg Johnson. They both helped with this presentation. And I have members of our Economic Development Committee up front here, Bill Nussbaum, Vice Chair, Tom Berry, Chair, Bruce Rosenberg, and Eli Dimitri. So thank you for joining us. I saw them taking notes, some of the Chelmsford economic development budgetary items that were up there. But anyway, Westford's a wonderful town. Could I just have a show of hands of how many residents and or people who work for Westford businesses or own them are here? Great. Well, I'd love to have the rest of you come to town too, and that's our goal economically and residentially. So we have a kind of brief presentation here. These are the topics that we'll be talking about briefly. This is pretty much the format I used last year, but we did update it. So good information. Our statistics are listed here. You can see our population is actually close to 25,000 now. Our median home price is $520,000. And you can see our unemployment rate is 2.7, which is better than the state average. We did pull up tax information here. So Westford is what I call really a single tax. We have it in dual because we do offer a small commercial exemption. But you can see the tax rates of some of the local communities, and obviously Westford's pretty competitive with 16.18 and 16.38 with the small commercial exemption. But we are looking at something to do with maybe going into a split tax that I'll talk about in a couple minutes. So we've got a lot of residential development going on, and we've got some of the projects listed here and some of the housing units that we're looking at. Of course, we have mill conversion, which is very exciting. We've done one Ewell development, and he's about to do he's doing another one with another 103 units. A lot of 40B, as Keith mentioned, that is the affordable housing that allows them to build lots of units on a small space. And so we've got, I believe it's about 400 apartments going up, a little over 400 this year down in the Red Hat area. I see John here from Red Hat. Speaking of that, before I forget, Juniper Networks, I want to thank you. They donated furniture to the town. We are renovating an old dispatch center, and they donated us furniture because of the construction. So thank you very much for that. That saved us a lot of money. These developments here are in permitting. We did receive a intent to sell the Merrill Quarry. If any of you are familiar with that, it abuts Tingsboro, and they are proposing to put up 40 residential lots. So the selectmen just formed a committee to look at that. It wasn't a bona fide offer, so it went back to the Merrills, but we assume it's coming back to us, so we want to see whether the town has interest in purchasing that. Our subsidized housing, because of all these apartments, is now at 13.75, so that protects us from another 40B coming in. Commercial, Juniper Networks, where we are, they're doing a $3 million renovation, and I found out that basically I think they're moving up to the second and third floor, so this will not be available anymore, but they are expanding. That's excellent. UTC Aerospace right across the road there has a proposed renovation too. Of course, Orchard Square, if any of you have seen this, there is a restaurant space ready, willing, and able. We're just looking for a tenant there, but that was a new development too on 110 Littleton Road. Of course, we know the asphalt plan. I didn't bring that up last year, but it is approved and it is being constructed this year. They are going to be giving us a lot of asphalt for our roads and so on, but we expect that to be open sometime late in the year. The Very Fine building was sold at auction, I believe, for a very good price, and they are in the process of leasing that. And they did get a liquor license approved for a restaurant, which they want to construct in the front by the 110. Bell's Bistro became Fuse. I don't know, has anybody eaten there? I ate there. not too many, so maybe we should try it out. But anyway, there's an escape room. Those of you, everybody know what an escape room is? So that's a place you go in and try to get out, and that's supposed to be fun. I personally have claustrophobia, so my family tried to get me to go there Thanksgiving. I was like, yeah, I don't think so. So we went bowling instead. I think we were in Lowell. But anyway, and Kimball Farm just put in a new wastewater treatment plant and hooked up to Littleton water supplies, so that allows them some expansion. We had the big dig in Westford today. I'm still here. I mean, this summer, I'm still hearing about it. I take full responsibility. I wanted to get some projects done, so I had the whole town torn up. And you couldn't, every time you figured out how to get somewhere, we tore up that road, and then we sent you somewhere else, and people were posting on Facebook. They were completely confused. But anyway, I am going to take it a little slower next year, and but we have some projects that we're going to complete. Main Street, the Tadmuck 110 intersection, somehow we got to get those poles out of there. We are putting lights up at Groton Road and Oak Hill, and also Dunstable Road and Groton Road. Beaverbrook Bridge, Boston Road, we're going to renovate. We're starting the design, and you can see my picture, the lower there where I say future. It's going to have bike lanes and a sidewalk all the way down from the center of town down to Cornerstone. And so anyway, lots of engineering going on, but not as bad as last summer. So. We also like to protect our land. That's very important to us, and we are looking at this town meeting coming up at getting a conservation restriction on 45 acres at what we call the salt box. I believe I say that on here. Beautiful piece of property, and we have a map here, so that will be on the warrant. And then we're also looking at purchasing 50 acres on Lowell Road, which is the Adams family. We've been negotiating with them since I think I started here, and we finally have an agreement. So beautiful piece of property that already has trails, and that will be on the warrant. Economic development initiatives. I have the best economic development committee out there. And that's why we don't need a person, because I have the group, but we have a new plan for this year, which the selectmen always approve. A couple of initiatives I listed here, but one of the things is that the town is looking at a split tax rate to give tax incentives to seniors, disabled, and low income. They're talking about that portion being moved to the commercial. So a committee was just formed. A couple of them are on this too. We're also looking at our permitting guide, which we do have, but we want to improve. So we're assessing that now. Hoping to make improvements. We're really trying to work with people who want to come to town. Of course, we love the businesses like Juniper Networks, the businesses that don't have a big draw on our town services, like public safety and so on. So we're always willing to welcome and work with anybody on that. We also do participate in many of the groups that were mentioned, Middlesex 3, Westford Business Association, 495 Partnership, Crosstown Connect. So this was Governor Baker. I was not in this picture either, but this was a very exciting event at Neshoba Valley Technical High School. They have a fantastic engineering department, crazy equipment, really interesting, and they got, much of it was funded through a grant, so very exciting day there. I'm somewhere way in the back. So public-private partnerships, Millworks, I don't know if I mentioned that last year, but Chris Yule, a developer in town, did buy the Courier building, which is up there. He's turning it into an indoor sports complex. It's amazing. If you haven't been there, go there. They have a fitness center. They've got, basketball fields. He's going to put a restaurant in. He got a liquor license at our town meeting last year. It's crazy. It's beautiful. And our rec department is there now, but actually the Road and Bush nonprofit that also is in town is talking to us about perhaps moving them back into Road and Bush with them when we reopen that building. Lots of opportunities. Chris Yule did put in a proposal to buy 12 North Main, and he also signed a purchase and sale for 35 Town Farm Road, which was our poor farm. And anyway, so we're working much with him. Municipal projects, we did combine our police and fire dispatch into one brand new facility for about $1 million. It opened in November. This is it. They were watching Phil here. I think this is, what's the show with Phil? Dr. Phil, thank you. That's what they were watching. But no, it's state-of-the-art equipment and great center. Now all of our calls go right into this center. This is the Road and Bush building. We're doing a $7.5 million rehab of that building, and the plan is for the Road and Bush Community Center, and Stephanie is here somewhere from there in the back, and also talk about bringing the rec department back in here when it's done. We're going to be tearing down the old fire station, which I must have, maybe I passed that. Did I pass that? No, it's coming. Okay, so the old fire station is located next to the town hall. I don't know really how to do this. Oh, there we go. There's the town hall. So we're going to tear down the old station and build a new center building. It is on the warrant in March to design this. It'll have a 100-person meeting room, and it'll house the technology department, the veterans agent, and our new facilities director that we're taking to town meeting. So I think I must have missed the fire station. Where'd it go? Hold on. Oh, I guess I missed this. So this is our fire station. Boston Road, you're probably all seeing it constructed. Beautiful facility. We just toured it. $12.7 million. We are going to be under budget. It is scheduled to be open on October 31st. They tell me no way it's going to be late. So beautiful facility, and we will have a grand opening. Okay. So town meeting is coming up March 24th. Those of you who are residents, please join us. Our budget's $114 million. We've got $5 million in capital. As I mentioned, the new center building, Boston Road reconstruction design, the traffic lights, a new ambulance. We have two interesting citizen petitions. One is to put a traffic light in the center of town on the common. I'm seeing heads shaking no and gasping. So this is probably going to bring everybody to town meeting. And so that is a citizen petition. And then another one to regulate single-use checkout plastic bags. So at places like Market Basket, there is a group that's working with that citizen petition group to try to come up with some language. The state is also considering legislation to make that mandate statewide. So this is something that probably we're all going to be seeing. We're replacing the roof at the school and doing some other systems. And the tax exemption that I mentioned, we're looking at that would take those taxes from those groups and shift them over to either residents or businesses. A lot of community preservation projects. This is somebody who works in my office here, Kathy Wilson, and her little doggy, Penny there. They're playing pickleball. That is all the whatever in Westford. They had 20 people show up at the Community Preservation Committee to get money to convert some basketball courts or tennis courts to pickleball. It looks like a lot of fun. I went, but I had boots on. I didn't play. But, it's kind of like tennis, but on a smaller court and with a different, ball. So lots of fun. The salt box I mentioned, and we're going to replace the track at Westford Academy. Those of you who are familiar with that, that is a danger, and some windows at a school. So I don't know if there's any questions, but that's kind of a rundown on what's going on in Westford. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you for the kind remarks about the paper. What she's referring to is last Saturday night, the Sun won 8 awards in the New England Newspaper and Press Association. It's an annual competition. Very proud of, matter of fact, Chris Lazinski, who some of you deal with, won 2 awards. One of them was for best video, and it was a Littleton man who was using assistive technology to run the Boston Marathon. Really remarkable piece of video that he put together on that. So very proud of all of our wins, and thank you very much. So we're going to throw this open. Thank you. We're now going to throw this open. We have some questions in advance. I don't know if there's any questions the audience has. I think there's some pieces of paper. If you want to pass those forward, we can try to get them. I think we have some decent time for Q&A. First question is multiple parts. What is the one most important thing you need to accomplish this year? What are your challenges to getting it done, and how are you addressing those challenges? And how might your local business association help? Keith, we'll start with you.
Is there a mic?
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay. Number one priority for the Littleton Board of Selectmen is our Littleton Common Smart Sewer. It's at the top of our list of things to do. We are bringing a design a design funding request to town meeting in May, and construction funding to town meeting in the fall. We are working with the affected property owners. We started the study back in 2011, 2012. It sort of didn't move, but it was resurrected a couple of years ago, and we are looking at working closely with the affected property owners, with the Littleton Business Association and other groups to make sure that it happens. But that it is all about economic development and growth, that we have a lot of things that we want to do, but we see that we would need to have a sewer for our traditional downtown area in order to be able to achieve that goal.
Jody?
Thank you. I would say probably funding our budget to continue our operations in town would be the #1 priority, and certainly new growth is a part of funding our operations. Last year, our new growth was lower than it had been in over a decade, and so we really missed the target. This year, I think we have planned about $775,000 in new growth. New businesses obviously help that. The Economic Development Committee and I are trying to fill vacant space in town and encourage new businesses to come. But certainly, we have a public safety, not problem, but we have to support our public safety in town, and we have a need for about 8 new firefighters, and we are funding 2 at this town meeting and 2 new police officers, because all this development that's happened, the new housing, the Cornerstone Square, the apartments, all put a drain on our town services. So I would say funding the budget, encouraging business to be robust, assisting you where we can to keep you in town, keep you growing like Juniper Networks, that would be our highest priority.
Okay. Selby?
So how many of you have been to Acton? All right. How many of you have been on Route 27 heading south towards Maynard? How many of you have gotten jammed up at the intersection of 111? All right. So that's probably our biggest priority right now, is we have a project that's on the transportation improvement. This is working? On the transportation improvement, what's that, the TIP, the transportation improvement program. Thank you. So it's a $9 million infrastructure improvement that would provide turning lanes, a couple new stoplights, and should improve the level of service for any travelers going through that intersection. So we'll be taking up that at Springtown meeting to add some additional funding and appraisal and funds for appraisals for that project. And following on the heels of that, in the fall, we'll be trying to pass zoning that would allow for mixed-use development at that intersection. The town has a goal in the master plan to create a walkable town center in the Kelly's Corner area. So these are 2 things that we need in order to realize that dream, that goal. Another priority would be the building of a North Acton fire station. So most of Acton's growth over the last 20 years has happened in the north of the town, and all of our fire stations, we have 3 of them. One's in the center of town, right on Route 120, right on 27, and there's one in South Acton, one in West Acton, but there's nothing serving North Acton. So we have design funds in the budget this year to design a new fire station for North Acton. And a third priority would be, we're just investigating it right now, but sewering West Acton, which is our actual livable, walkable village center that we have in town right now.
Mike?
We have a $132 million budget, and as the assistant town manager, a resident, and a former selectman, I would always say it's quality of life at an affordable price. That means delivering the services to all demographics, great schools, solid public safety, and keeping the tax rate low for our seniors. The way I see us doing it is increasing our commercial industrial tax base. Chelmsford is unique in the area. I think we have a 81-19% split. Only 19% of our tax base is from commercial industrial. What we've been doing, what I highlighted before, the fact that we've reached our safe harbor and our 10% of our affordable housing stock. We've acquired additional liquor licenses last year. We've positioned ourselves to bring in more high-value businesses. By doing that, it will increase that tax base, shift some of the burden from the residents over to the commercial side, and allow us to continue the quality services that we have been. So our number one priority is bringing those high-value businesses into town.
Okay. Mike, why don't we just keep it down there? We'll work it back. Next question, again, I'm going to break this up into there's multiple parts, so I want to break it up into a couple of questions. What kind of businesses do you want to come to your town? Why are you targeting that kind of business? And what makes your town attractive? And as a subset of that, are there businesses you don't want in town? Sorry.
Great question. We're open to anybody who wants to come in and sit down with the town. We have quite a diverse commercial base, as I indicated before. You want to come in, you want to move to Chelmsford, come on and meet with the team. As I said, we are positioned, we have the housing stock, the infrastructure, we're set up for live, work, and play. As for someone that the town doesn't want, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, we did not pass any local ordinances allowing retail marijuana at this time. But otherwise, we have, as I said, we have high-tech manufacturing, wonderful restaurants. We would love anyone to come in and complement that. And we're doing everything possible, as I highlighted before. We have all the initiatives in place on 129, the Business Development Director, Lisa Maroney, our Economic Development Commission. I think we're doing everything right to bring those businesses in, and I hope next year either Paul or I are here and we can tell you about more of the businesses that we brought in. And if you want to do business, by all means, we're open for business, and come on down and meet with us.
Selby.
I'd say anybody who wants to come in and fill any vacant spot we have in any of our office buildings, come on to Acton. Like I said in my little case study, that 100 Nagog Park, 25 acres, 180,000 square foot building that had sat vacant for 15 years, it's wonderful to see a company come and utilize and expand on that and bring a lot more people into town. Acton's different than these three other towns. We do not have direct access onto a major highway. We do have an exit on Route 2, but that's not 495, that's not Route 3. So we don't have those large office parks like this that people can come to. We do have one, Nagog Park, and we'd like to see that office park fully utilized.
Jody?
Thank you. As I mentioned, I mean, we very much want to support the businesses that we have, and we have worked with two, Red Hat and Cynosure, and granted TIFs that have been mentioned before. And we want to do that, and we are ready, willing, and able to work with you. We did work with UTC Aerospace, who is expanding, and Juniper. So if you're already here, we want to help you grow. But if you're not here, we want to help you come, and we are working on an inventory, as I mentioned, of space. We love the mom and pop shops. We had Muffins on Main open last year in a village and village restaurant. That was wonderful for our community. So if you have anybody you know who would like to open a small business or a large one, we're here to work with you. We did not approve the recreational marijuana in our town at the ballot, and we prohibited those recreational establishments from coming to town. I don't really want to get into who else we don't want, but we are inclusive. We are a very family-oriented, family-friendly town, so we're supportive of most anybody. Thank you.
Keith?
Well, in Littleton, I guess I should say, since everyone else has mentioned what's happening with recreational marijuana, the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board in Littleton had a joint meeting, pun intended, last week, and we'll be presenting an overlay zone to town meeting voters of where we would want retail sales to occur. And we already have one licensed facility for cultivation of medical marijuana, and that will expand into recreational cultivation. But our voters at the November 2016 ballot voted to approve the use, and so we're proposing to identify areas where the retail could occur. We work closely with the businesses that exist, but we want to work with them for them to be able to do more. We have passed some overlay zoning for the Littleton Common area, which allowed where we set forth what our vision was going to be, and we've seen it come to pass. We didn't have a lot of restaurants, now we do. We didn't have a lot of retail, now we do. We had a lot of empty office space, and it's filling up, but we still have other areas and properties that can be developed. So we are working closely with the property owners and developers. And our motto has been, our mission, the title of the presentation was Economic Development Consistent with Community Character, and that is that we have a lot of green areas, we have a lot of active farms. Frankly, farms are businesses too, and so we've expanded the purposes for which farmers can use their property so that they don't feel the development pressure to have them go to a residential subdivision. But we, by and large, want to keep the green areas green, and we want to work closely to develop those areas that are for commercial or industrial use to their fullest potential.
Okay. Follow-up to that is, and I'll expand on this a little, what are you doing to attract new businesses? When it's one thing when people come to you and say, we're interested in your community, what in maybe 50 words or less, what's your pitch to get somebody to come?
Well, I have to say, in Littleton's case, a lot, I know we're on the list for communities that are looking for a town where they can get a tax increment financing agreement. Mm-hmm. And so we're not surprised when we get contacted by someone that says, yeah, gee, I want to locate to your town. Then the next question is, can I get a tax increment financing agreement? And in some cases, the Board of Selectmen has been supportive, and in all cases where we brought it to town meeting for a vote, that they have approved it. We work closely with the 495 Metro West Partnership to help see if we can connect particular sites with particular folks that are available or that are looking to come. We field meetings. And I had a meeting, and we have a team of the leadership from the selectmen and the planning board and the town staff who, if we just who are ready and able to meet with folks when we line up their interest and just so that they can come to know what is possible in our community and how we can work with them.
Jody?
Well, we do everything he just said, too. But we also did a brochure a few years ago on Westford highlighting. We forgot to put churches in it, and we'll put that in when we do a revision. But, we did do a brochure to highlight our town. I mean, it is a wonderful community. I think we don't, unfortunately, have a lot of undevelopable space, which is unfortunate, but we work with all the local agencies to try to market ourselves. We get emails from some of those agencies, 495 Partnership and so on, for companies looking to come to a town, and we try to market ourselves to that. Again, we do everything we can. We offer TIFs and whatever. It is hard to find those companies looking to relocate. We did participate with the Amazon RFP that Bill Ricca put together. I brought Westford into that and showed how our community could assist if they relocated there. So we do everything we can. It is difficult. It's a challenge that we keep working on, but I think we're open for business too, and we want to keep everybody who's here. And I'm looking at John at Red Hat and some of the others, but we want to welcome new companies if they're looking.
So I'm the first staff person the town has had with economic development related to their title in any way. We've had a standing economic development committee. So we've had an economic development committee for a number of years, but I don't know what they've done. I don't see any members or past members in the audience, thank goodness. I meet with them on a bi-weekly basis, and we talk about what's going on in town. They did definitely help me with the Insulet deal But they've been kind of averse to marketing the town. When I first came in 2 years ago, I talked about, hey, why don't we create a website? Why don't we create a brochure? Why don't we do some active marketing? And I couldn't get them really on board with that. One thing I am working on right now is a business guide. Jody mentioned that Westford has one that they're looking at updating. Acton has never had anything like that. And I have found that when a small business owner comes to town hall and they want to open up shop, they want to hang a shingle someplace, they might be looking for, hey, where could I locate a business? They might be looking for a list of all the permits and licenses that they might need in order to open up a business. So a business guide that basically gives them a point-by-point instructions of how they can navigate the various permitting processes, because there are a lot of licenses and permits that you need in order to open up a business. I think it's something that that would benefit the small business owners, and it's something that I have as a priority.
Again, as I mentioned before, it's a team approach, and we're utilizing that team to attract businesses from our EDC that's actively engaged, the marketing and branding they're doing. Very shortly, they'll be having a new website that will be up, explain businesses how to get connected with the community. And another member of our team came in. I'm not sure if I mentioned her before. Laura Smith's here as well. But we've been spreading the word, getting involved with Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce, our own local business association, Chelmsford Business Association, Middlesex 3. We do a lot of direct contact. Donald Van Dyne, the chairman, and I went out kind of on the road last year speaking to state agencies, a lot of stakeholders on Route 129. And we do active cold calling of some of the businesses out there. I've spoken to CEOs of some restaurant chains, and we have Lisa Maroney, our business development director, who's out joining all these organizations, showing up, networking, putting the word out that we're open for business. So we're doing everything possible. But on that same front, we're also working on business retention, because the businesses that we already have in town are very important to us. I see Denise Mackerel from Enterprise Bank. They have 2 locations in Chelmsford. We're fortunate to have these businesses and the mom and pop shops that have been there for decades. So not only do we want to attract the new businesses, but we want to support these other ones and introduce those businesses to the new businesses coming down, so that there's that B2B exchange. So that's what we're doing, and we'll continue to do it. And if you want to be part of that, come on by.
Okay, another multiple part question. It's about your tax rates. According to this, Westford has a split tax rate modified with the exemption, correct? Single rate with a commercial exemption. Okay.
Small commercial exemption.
Okay. Littleton has a split tax rate. Acton, single rate. And I know Chelmsford has a single rate, because in the 23 years of the Sun, I've read 23 years worth of stories about how and whether the town should change that over. So the questions are, what's the percentage of your commercial tax base to the total, and how do you believe the tax rate affects your ability to bring in commercial development?
So we have approximately 19% commercial tax base in the town of Chelmsford.
Hold it up. Yeah.
19% commercial tax base in the town of Chelmsford. Classification is always a difficult question in any community. It's a policy decision for your local board of selectmen. The difficulty is for each town assessing if it's appropriate. If you have a large commercial tax base, it might be appropriate. If you're trying to attract businesses and you have a small one, it might not be adequate. The next question is how much of a rate shift. When I came on the Board of Selectmen in the late 90s, we had a small shift of 5%. I was on the board when we voted it back to a single tax rate. When I was the selectman, I felt it was appropriate, given the amount of business we had in town, to attract appropriate businesses, to keep a single tax rate. You look at the national level, they've changed how taxes are being handled, and we have businesses, including Apple, that are coming back, giving tax breaks and rebates to some of their employees. It does have an effect on business. The question is, what impact will it have on the businesses in your community? But right now, we're trying to do everything we can to bring businesses in. I personally, as a taxpayer, I have no problem with the single rate, and when I was an elected official, I had no problem with the single rate. So that's my feeling about tax classification.
Selby.
Acton has about 12%, maybe 13% commercial tax, or 12% of the taxes borne by the commercial, whatever. They've had a single rate since 2000. I believe it was split before then. We have no plans to go back to a split rate. We do believe that having a single rate is an incentive for businesses to come to town. One tax incentive that the town did do right before I came on board was a special tax assessment for a company called AES, and they lured that company from Air, which does have a split tax rate, to Acton, and so their taxes went down. Aside from the STA, the taxes went down by over $11 or $12 per thousand, just by shifting from Air to Acton, because Air has a split rate and Acton does not.
Thank you. Westford is 15% commercial, and as I mentioned, we have a single tax rate with if your business is a million or below, you get a small commercial exemption of 10%, which gets shifted to the larger companies. They've had that for years. I've been there 10 years. We've supported that for 10 years. I'm not a policymaker. I report to the Board of Selectmen. This is a Board of Selectmen decision, and as I mentioned, they just formed a committee Tuesday night, and I can tell how my Economic Development Committee feels about this by their nodding of their heads during the prior speaker, but personally, it's not my decision. This shift that they're talking about would be about $325,000 shift to give an exemption to those senior low-income disabled and move that over to the business. I don't believe at this point they have any other desire to look at having a dual tax rate. Our taxes are lower. I wanted to put up the slide, but I don't have the clicker. But our taxes are lower than all these surrounding communities that I'm sitting here with. And I do think that does help attract businesses. But I am told by the businesses that is not the necessarily leading factor that they're looking for. I mean, it's certainly location, transportation, whether they can find the staff that they are looking for, the employees, the education. There's lots of other variables. It's not just taxes, but certainly that's also a positive to either offer some sort of TIF or some sort of benefit or have a attractive tax rate.
I agree with Jody that the tax rate itself, the tax bill, is not a determining factor with many folks, with many businesses on making the decision to come to a community. The access, available land are critical issues. In Littleton's case, 77% of the property value is residential, and the rest is commercial. We've seen a decrease in the percentage of residential and an increase in commercial, which is something that we're pleased with. But we have had a split tax rate now for a generation, and that establishes a baseline of what an average residential property tax bill is, and that is an important guide to, the Board of Selectmen looks at what the impact is on the average residential bill and the average commercial tax bill each year when it has the classification hearing, and endeavors to make sure that the increases are similar, to not go further towards in the shift towards the commercial property, and one of our strategies is to promote more commercial valuation by having more businesses in town as a way that we would cope with our split tax rate.
Thank you.
Could I
Sure.
also mention, because I didn't to the last one, where Town of Littleton is updating its website as well. There's a special section including videos on doing businesses. Littleton, that was an important part of our outreach, and our Economic Development Committee had a lot to do with that, and I wanted to make sure to say so.
I think we're going to have time for maybe one more quick question. It's this came up in a couple of the questions that were submitted in advance. What is the best way for the people in this room, in the local business community, to get involved with either the projects that you're proposing, or zoning, or just becoming a purveyor or supplier of town services? What's the best way for them to get involved?
My answer to that would be get on the town's mailing list through the website. Become active in the if you're not already in your community's local business association. In Littleton, a few years ago, there was no business association. Now there are over 100 members, and it's a place that I know that town officials can go to let them know about things happening in town and to make sure that they're aware of important initiatives that could help their businesses and help the communities.
I would agree with Keith, and also I think being a part of the Westford Business Association, the show by Melissa's back there. I mean, the Lowell Chamber, we do speak at the Lowell Chamber every spring. I'm always the woman that doesn't wear the blue suit, but I just want to make sure I don't get mixed up with them. But no, I mean, it's a great organization, and so getting involved with those agencies, but email me, email the Economic Development Committee. If you want to come to one of our meetings, they're fascinating meetings, and you can come and get to know us. We do have a lot of local business people come to those meetings frequently. And so, reach out to us if you would like to get involved. I know that we have the Rotary, too, that many of you are members of. Cheryl, has been very involved in that. Invite us to you, too. If you have an event, you want some selectmen to come, or me, we're happy to come and celebrate whatever successes you have. So reach out. If you're a resident, we have citizen activity forms that you could fill out online to volunteer for any of our, I think we have about 89 committees now because they formed 4 more on Tuesday night. So we have a lot of committees and a lot of activity, and we welcome you to help us.
So in the 2 years that I've been with Acton and the, 2 years times 2 meetings a month, to 24 or so meetings that I've been to, 48 meetings or so that I've been to at the EDC, we've had one person show up for public participation out of 48 meetings. That said, we do have a seat on the EDC that is designated for a member of the Metro West Chamber, or the Middlesex West Chamber of Commerce. That seat is being filled. It is filled now. It was vacated for a long time, but now we have a local restaurateur who's sitting in with the EDC and is attending a meeting a month or so. So getting involved through your local Chamber of Commerce, that's how to reach us in Acton, or like Jody said, give me a call, send me an email, show up to one of our meetings, and let us know how you'd like to be involved. Let us know, what I say is let us know how we can help you. That's what we really want to hear.
I agree with everything that's been said by the other panelists. Most important, join your local business association. We have the Chelmsford Business Association, the Greater Lowell Chamber, but reach out to the local officials. We have competent team members, vocal advocates on our citizen panels and commissions, including the Economic Development Commission. These are all passionate people that are involved with the town, and they want you to come to our community. Reach out to Lisa Maroney, our new business development director. She's there to be the interface and engage with the businesses that are coming in. And keep your eye open for the new website that will come out for the Economic Development Commission with the videos in attracting to business and how to do business in Chelmsford. But most importantly, don't be afraid to reach out to Paul Cohen or myself. The door is always open. And those of you who are in the room of small business who've been in Chelmsford, Denise has come on over to Town Hall. The door is always open, and there isn't a day that goes by where somebody just walks in, an attorney brings in a client, or there's an engineer with a plan that comes into Paul and says, hey, I have a client that's thinking about doing this. What do you have to say? And Paul will bring that person in. He'll call me. He'll call Lisa up, our community development director, Evan Belansky, for an informal meeting. It'll be proposed to the various boards, and that's how business gets started. It starts with a conversation, and we're willing to listen.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. Round of applause for our town manager. Are there any last questions that anyone wants to present? Anyone have a question? It's very important that you take your badge off and drop it off at the front desk as you leave today. Please make sure you do that. Thanks again to Juniper. Marcy, thank you for hosting us today. Thank you to Pam and Cheryl for putting this all together. And mostly thank you to our presenters. Thank you for being here and making all this information available to us. Thank you so much. All right, Have a great day.